Welcome to the Team 7 Pirates podcast, the show that talks about almost everything under the sun, from animated sports and from music to video games. I'm Kaz, here with my boy Khalil, my big brother Yoki. Now let's get into it. So it's nice to see someone to stay together after all these years too, in my personal opinion. But that goes to the first topic that we're talking about, which is what are a couple of things that change the way we live life done by an African American. So since we got big homie on the scene, we're gonna go with the guest first. Pops, what you got for us, G?
Well, in my opinion, there's so many things that African Americans have done, and obviously you can check out the Black Historical Figures, the Inventors book that's out. But in that, I'm a huge gamer, so I still play video games to this day. And one of the people that helped influence that particular style of playing is his name is Gerald Lawson, and he is known as the father of the video game cartridge. Because back when I was playing video games, where you had ColecoVision, Atari 2600, those type of games, regular games were built into just one system. So you either had to buy a stand-up Pac-Man or a stand-up Galaga or Space Invaders or Pong. Those games, you couldn't bring them within your home unless you had money like that. Well, that's where General Lawson came in. He created it to where they were just in a cartridge and you could switch those games. So you got Nintendo, you got, you can even thank you, PlayStation, Xbox. None of those systems would be available without this man's technology and thinking of when he created the actual video game cartridge. So I give a shout out to him. And then I am a computer engineer by trade. I have a master's degree in computer science. I also am architect for Microsoft. So the other person I just want to give a shout out to is Mark Dean. He is a person that works for IBM, that we don't know about. When you talk about Apple, who do y'all think of when you talk about Apple?
Steve Jobs.
When you talk about Microsoft, who do you think of?
Bill Gates.
And then when you talk about IBM, who do you think of?
That one I don't know.
Exactly. Nobody said, they just say IBM, not realizing that this black man they have 9 patents to their name, and he owns 3 of those patents. You can thank the color monitor for Mark Dean and his working with his team on creating those different things. He still works for IBM to this day, and
currently holds more than 20 patents.
Say again?
He currently holds more than 20 patents.
Oh yeah, he does. He's a great mathematician, but the fact of the matter is, you talk about these other mega corporations. IBM is up there, but you just know it as IBM. You don't identify with somebody that holds some of their patents that made them who they are today. And in my opinion, it's because he's a black man. He's not on a pedestal like the other 2 gentlemen. Why isn't that? But I just want to throw a shout out to those 2 people in particular, because they have a big influence on my life and me growing up and the different things that I pursued in my lifetime. So I throw a shout out to those 2 people, because they changed the way that we use, all these monitors that we looking in today, from your phone. All that stuff ties back to this man. And if you play any type of video games, You know, before it became digital and streaming, all of that stuff came back to the other guy, General Lawson. So you got Mark Dean and General Lawson. Those are my two big influences because they had an impact on my lifestyle.
Okay. I respect it. That's definitely some new information I ain't know, to be honest with you. But it's definitely something that I'm always willing to. I love to know. Like, love to know more about influencers and especially African Americans because it makes me feel more like if they could do it, I could be worth something too. And that's what everybody where it's like even people my generation and younger or somebody older than me that feel like they should do something but they still don't feel confident. So I didn't know that about them, but everybody should know something about them. And also it's nice to hear what influenced you when you was coming up too. So I appreciate
on that note, I didn't know about either one of these gentlemen. And just to back up a little bit, that goes back to why I created those books. The Black Historical Figures is a series because Mark Dean, when he was doing this, I was in high school, and I wanted to do computers in high school, but I didn't know any African Americans that were doing it. So I was just out there trying to do it, just because it seemed something interesting because when I was in high school, computers were just coming on the scene. I can remember, stuff being on a floppy disk. You had a big room that had one supercomputer in there, vice all of the way that they got storage now, where it's in the cloud or it's on a SATA drive. Those different things wasn't possible back then. But I knew that in my mind that this was the future. I was really good at math too when I was in high school. So I was like, this is what I want to do. And when I created these books, that's exactly what you were saying. I wanted other people to know that these people are out there. So you can get the different subjects. There's inventors, there's musicians, entertainers, sports, public activists, the arts, military, HBCUs, comedians, so they're public activists. You can, whatever your child wants to go into, there's a book designed to show you 25 different people that have done it in that area, and so that you can use them as a blueprint to inspire you to go for your dreams and aspirations so that you can get out there and do what these people have done. And that's the whole purpose of the books, is to bring it all to a fold and inspire somebody else to do these things that they, see out there, but then people aren't talking about African Americans that have done it. These books, and the only thing in them is Black African Americans. That's the whole purpose of this whole series, is to show my community that there are people out there doing these things. You just didn't know about it because people didn't teach it or celebrate them or give them their flowers while they was doing it or while they are doing it. Because it's not just people in the books that were born in the 1800s. It's also people as of today, where you got Rihanna, Zendaya. These different people are in the books as well. Simone Biles. It's not just older people, it's younger people too that are making a difference and changing the way that the whole world sees us as African Americans because of their accomplishments and accolades.
And that's definitely a good thing, because given our history and being the majority of our life, it's always nice because a lot of African Americans, given to where they're born and stuff like that, they feel like they don't have a choice. So I was born in New York, where it's like I seen so many people grow up saying, "Oh well, hey man, it is what it is. This is my life, and I don't want to do better." So many people don't have the aspiration to do better, and it's like it sucks because like where I grew up, it's like isn't the best that you can be, or this isn't the best that you could do, but you just subject yourself to, oh, it is what it is, because I'm never going to accomplish nothing. And it's like, oh man, there's so many people out here doing better for themselves. African Americans doing better for themselves, doing a podcast, doing streaming, whatever, or just trying to create stuff, or doing, or better their education, and just making something about themselves. So it's like, you're not alone. You don't have to just subject yourself to being in the streets or just working at Walmart. Nothing against Walmart, but just throwing something out there, or just working like whatever job and shit like that. It's like, you could do more, and you are more than just what people tell you are as an African American, in my personal opinion.
But it also helps when you got somebody that you see, like you said, when all you see every day is drug dealers and they got money, then you aspire to be that. When you see, and that, all of this is done by design. They don't prop us up purposely so that our youth, all they looking at is what's in the neighborhood. But when you give them, other ways, or you teach them, they're in their history books, you're learning about these people that had a big impact on how we live everyday life, then you feel that's something to feel proud about and want to carry that torch on. As much as, you don't want to sell drugs and carry that, but at the end of the day, you got to eat. So you like, how am I, if this is all we got, then this must be it. And the whole point of, like you said, is, to show these people's stories, is to show people that there's other people out there that have, tried to take the other route, and they were successful at it. So you don't have to, I tell you one thing they teach you, because I program as well. The first thing in class they teach you is don't recreate the wheel. You take the wheel and you design it to meet your factors and what you're trying to do. So, there's pieces of code out there that can get what you want. Now I got to take my imagination and take that piece of code to a place that it hasn't been before. So that's the whole point of these people. They don't want to show us, that we are out here doing it. And like you said, being from New York, Marie Van Brittan Brown, even though she ain't from New York, she was in New York when she created the first, pretty much alarm system. She's the inventor of that. Everybody got it in their homes now, and they monitor those things. Thank you to her, a Black woman that created that. There's a lot of things out here that people don't realize that they use in their everyday life that a Black person created. Mm-hmm. Just like the lights. Yeah, a Black man didn't invent electricity, but Lewis Latimer created the filament. So your lights wouldn't be able to burn all day without a Black man. So there's so many things. The elevator that we got today, you wouldn't be able to have that either without a Black man. The elevator that was built back in the day, it was one of those where you could open the door and the floor was not there. There was many of people that lost their lives or got injured, using the elevator, where a Black man came in and his daughter almost died, and he decided to do something about it to where he built the system to where when you open the door, the floor is there now. And that's the system we use today. Oh yeah, his name is not Charles.
Take your time. Which I just remember
Garrett Morgan, which is also the same man that helped revise the traffic light. So
what's his name again?
There's a lot of different people out there. Garrett Morgan.
I was about to say the traffic light is one thing that helped us
out
a lot.
That was on my list.
The traffic light. There was he's not the only one that came up with those different designs. To be fair, you gotta look at this stuff in totality. There were two other white men, and I talk about this on my YouTube channel, that also helped create these different versions of the traffic light. Him and another guy, it was a white guy, that helped create the version that we use today. But a lot of people just don't talk about that. Everybody think it was a black man that created this version, and that's not true. And that's what I try to tell people. These books are designed, to take away from other people's part in making history. I'm just trying to highlight those individuals that aren't getting their due. They ain't getting their flowers. They ain't being celebrated. And that's all I'm trying to do with these books. I'm not trying to take away from other people that have done their part in history. But what I am trying to do is show our community that we've done a lot of stuff in America that makes it possible for you to do the things that you do every day. You can thank that do-rag and stuff that you got on your head from a black person. The product and stuff you put in your hair. It ain't just Madam C.J. Walker that did a lot of that stuff. She had people that worked for her that unfortunately didn't get the credit for some of the stuff that they built because they were under her corporation. But they still built it and invented it. And they were black women. So, there's a lot of stuff out there, and that's what the books are designed to do, is just to give us another way of, like I said, celebrating these people, giving them flowers, some of them while they still alive, because that's the worst thing to do, is to get your flowers and you don't even get to smell them. So, that's the whole purpose of these books.
So,
Okay.
I was thinking about this topic, like trying to figure something. This man's over here sniffing.
I got some other flowers, man. I got some other flowers. It's too late.
I was thinking, like, trying to piece something else together to, like, where it goes with this, and I was thinking, like, in the sports world, like baseball. For me, like, just how they basically, like Kaz was saying, instead of selling drugs and all of that, they gave an out for African Americans to play baseball. Because I didn't know about it until I got MLB 23 that they had a Negro League. I didn't know that until recently, and I was like, wow. So African Americans had a whole league to themselves, to where we just play baseball and all of that other stuff. And then we had Jackie Robinson, who took it a step further and was one of the first to play on a major league team with a...
He was the first. He was the first.
Was the first to play on a major league team. And then you go and then you have Satchel Paige, who went and played on a major league team, and all these other people. What I'm trying to get at is it helped the black community to know that we can also be rich and do it the right way instead of the illegal way. At least one of them in the sports world.
I'm just going to, be devil's advocate in this. Just because I know just a tad bit more than you do know about this. So the Negro League came about because of the war. The only reason the Negro League at the time did well was because there were all the people that was fighting the war. Most of those people was playing baseball and they got drafted. So there was, because even though during the Negro League time, you had the Women's League. Their women played baseball just to give us as Americans some other platform to look at, and while the troops were downrange doing what they do, because there were so many people gone, baseball season took, a toll. Like, there was no baseball season. The Negro League flourished. And even though a lot of people talk, Satchel Paige, in their opinion, was a better ball player than Jackie Robinson. So people like, why did Jackie Robinson get chose over Satchel Paige? Well, at the time, Jackie Robinson was the guy that they felt could take the criticism and not fight back. He was kind of like your Martin Luther King of the time,
Malcolm
where
X.
he could, and Satchel probably was the Malcolm X, to where he ain't just going, but they understood in order for them to get more blacks into the major leagues, we had to have one that was willing to take their stuff and not retaliate and still keep striving for greatness, and that's how that broke that barrier. And then eventually you had other people flow into the major leagues as African Americans. But that's just I just want to tell a little bit of that story behind how that was. But also, a lot of blacks say that by Jackie Robinson going into the major leagues, that took away, because now you remember the Negro League, those were all black teams led by black managers and black ownership. So a lot of people also say that when Jackie Robinson broke the barrier for Major League, that Major League did that on purpose to take away, because once that broke up all of those black teams, because they only took the best players. Now, what happened to the Negro League?
Yeah, it went away. Yeah,
it's gone. And so now, even though, because all those players that were playing in the Negro League, all of them didn't make it to the Major League Baseball.
It was only the best of the best that made it.
Exactly. So that took away something that was black owned, ran by blacks, and majority black players. Well, not majority, 100% black players. So now that he took away that from that community. So some people agree with it and some people disagree because of all of the jobs that were lost by other black athletes by him doing that and crossing over.
Yeah, I hear that. But then how many people today do you think would watch that, the Negro League? Because I feel like... so let's put other things into context. That's what major companies do. It's not just about, what people watch it. They were a threat. Because at the time when this was going on, there was no baseball. Now, back then, they weren't putting no niggas on TV. You could best believe that shit. Oh, yeah. But, we can all agree on that one.
But if it kept growing, then all of the people that go to these games, eventually, because even back then, there were a lot of white people that didn't see, they didn't feel that the racism was right. So they would have started flocking to some of these, because the talent was way better, the gameplay was better, the competitiveness was better. You're looking at that, and then you're like, hey, that would have dented some of, because nobody knew when the war was going to end. They didn't know that, they don't know how much you could have won. Just like when Microsoft goes in and they see a company that's starting to make headway, what do? They go offer to buy that guy out or buy that woman out and be like, hey, and by the way, you can come work for me for this amount of salary. So not only did they get their payday, now they work for Microsoft. You see it all the time on Shark Tank. Shark Tank does the same thing. You got all those sharks up there. They invest in a person, buy them out, and be like, hey, I still want you to be on the rolls to work for me. So all they're doing is cutting out the competition before it gets started. So, hey, prime example, Kill. What happened with 2K and then what was the other NBA
Live?
NBA Live.
What happened?
Dead and stanky.
NBA Live took a break and 2K took over.
Yep, and that's but people look at that NBA Live as that they had something there. They was going, they was moving, and then next thing you know, and people be like, oh, that's a conspiracy. And then you don't realize the conspiracy until it's over. You got one or two people that see it for what it is, but enough people don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, because 2K was there the whole time. it just wasn't as good as live at first. And then as soon as they took a break, that's exactly what happened. Because 2K been around since AI was playing.
Yup.
Ain't that right, AI?
On the Sega Dreamcast. Okay.
Yeah, ain't that right, AI?
Okay.
But but if you peep,
2K
kind of looked like Live. Like it kind of adapted some of the stuff Live had nowadays.
It did.
Because 2K didn't look like it did.
Next level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
2K
2K didn't look like it did in 2K6.
The My Career and they it was the My Career and they started to get the backing. When they got the Jordan deal, shit. I don't know when any other NBA game, I had to do my research on it, but I don't know when any other NBA game actually had Michael Jordan stamped and in the game.
I can tell you. Like I told, I'm a gamer, dude. None.
Exactly.
None.
He was a random number and just a high ranking person, but it wasn't him, but it was him.
You knew it was Michael. You knew it was Jordan.
Yeah.
But it wasn't no Jordan name. Wasn't none of that. It was
no
just
likeness.
That,
Yeah. Almost. It's a shadow character. That's almost him.
And that's how it was.
Great value. Until 2K bought those rights, because the whole time when you pay attention, they got the rights to everybody on TNT except for Charles Barkley. Now I know why Charles Barkley hasn't sold his rights, because he like, well, if y'all gonna do this, give everybody a paycheck when you put everybody in the game, and that's why everybody is in the game. But you know, it is what it is. Hey Ernie, hey Kenny, hey Shaq, no Chuck. The hell?
Okay. You only got 3 motherfuckers up there.
Okay.
Come on now.
And then got them doing weird ass movements just to test the game out. All of a sudden you in halftime and Shaq doing some weird ass shit like this. And Kenny doing that shit too, just because they was just fucking around testing the shit out. Like, hey, motion capture about to be nice. We about to look like we on TNT on the game.
Okay.
Several years.
What are you talking about?
Okay.
And that's big facts though. That's definitely big facts.
Yeah, that eliminate the competition is that's exactly what happens. Make them apart. Yeah, bring them to this. Hey, come join my team. You get this big paycheck, and now I ain't got to worry about you taking over my market. That's exactly what's happening.
And that's the
now it's my shit.
Yeah. Oh, we've been the greatest ever. No, you just got the people who's making new shit on.
You as an individual don't really know. You know, life is fickle. You know, so you like, hey, I'm still trying to have generational wealth and provide for not just my kids, but my kids' kids. And this big payday, you know, could do something for my family. So, you know, you almost can't fault people for doing that, because it's hard to tell somebody to turn the other cheek when they done scraped and scrapped all the way to get to this point and nobody was in their corner in the first place. But now all of a sudden I'm supposed to be in everybody's corner. So, you know, you got to look at it at both sides, you know, and then, you know, you as a competitor, everybody that's a competitor knows that they want to compete against the so-called best, you know, so it don't matter, even though, you know, because a lot of people talk about Babe Ruth and how, you know, some of the people in the Negro League would have killed his home run record way before, you know, it finally got beat if they were allowed those opportunities. But, you know, those are things that, you know, you as a competitor, you want to go against that, you know, and that's just, you know, you at heart. So, you know, you can't fault that other part because you can't tell the future. Because like I said, like you were saying, how many people would watch that? So you knew back then that, you know, because even back then, they had to use the Green Book just to travel on the road and figure out places to live. And I mean, not places to live, but places to sleep, places to eat. They wasn't allowed in every restaurant back then. So you couldn't just go eat. And they wasn't quiet about it. Them white folks was like, hey, you know the rules. We don't serve niggas here. And that's just the way it was. You know,
come with the nigga pies.
You know, so you sleep on us. And they would be like, hey, this whole town is shut down to niggas. Either y'all move to the next town Or hey, y'all might not wake up tonight, and if you was considered a nigga lover, we taking your ass out too, because you don't need to be. We don't believe in that shit. So it was nothing for them to burn a whole hotel or any establishment to the ground because you're not seeing our views. And that's what people don't realize, how real it was back then. So it was, that team was taking on a big burden theyself by just housing Jackie Robinson. It wasn't just, there were a lot of teams that refused to play because this nigga is taking the field. We don't do that here. What y'all do up there, look, that's on y'all. But don't be coming down here in the South talking about how we gonna do things. That's not how it go. So there's a lot of big, things that people just don't realize because they see it through their lens today.
Yeah.
This was 100 years ago. And they act like, oh, you supposed to. Let me stop because Khalil said we ain't supposed to get into that. Next topic.
Okay.
Because I can go on.
Okay. Okay. Hey, that's cut. That's what it is.
Hey, Pops, we was tuned in, G.
I was letting you go. If you wanted to go, you could have waited.
Hey, nigga, put the headphones in. I'm tuned the fuck in. Like, hey, Pops, put me on game, man.
You know where I started, man. You right.
Let's go.
Well, shit, if that's the case and shit, fuck it, man. Shit, I ain't never heard that before in an episode, but shit, well, shit, fuck it, damn, shit. Yo, Pops got me fucked up. I don't even know what to say next. Shit.
Thanks for listening to the Team 7 Pirates podcast. Don't forget to join us again next Thursday. See you then.